Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Front Three. Relaunching in a way, I guess you could say. It really has been a while since we've got things going and running up on this channel. But we're joined tonight by Cole from TalkAstonVilla and
Howdy.
Ellis from AwayDays, looking to really get this channel going, getting regular content up. Lads, we're here to talk about game week 14 in the Premier League, I believe it is. How are you? How are you feeling tonight?
Eh, I could do better. I had a
Wasn't a
pretty good
bad result
weekend.
for you, Cole. Come on, Ellis. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Leeds won 2-1 yesterday against Hull. But,
Okay. Everyone
just
loves a bit of Leeds. But
everyone does.
yeah, that's basically the front three. I mean, we've been established for a while now. We just haven't really been consistent through what we've done, but that's what we're looking to change. Now we've got three great hosts on board, including myself in that one. But let's get into the fixtures this week, starting off with the early kickoff on Saturday. Stoke City beating Man City by 2-0. Probably the biggest shock result of the weekend. Stoke quite comfortably beating the title favourites. Cole, I mean, what did you make of this result, and what did you really make of Stoke's amazing performance?
Well, it's Stoke Alona, so are you really surprised? But I think a lot of City fans, and I saw a lot of things and excuses on Twitter, Aguero's not playing, but like they have the squad for that. But it's typical City. They're so fragile within the weirdest parts of the season. I don't understand it. Ellis, what do you think?
Um, I think that City are more dependent on players like Aguero than you'd think, and David Silva just came back, and it didn't. I just think things didn't click for him yesterday. Like I follow a load of the Blue Moon Rising guys on Twitter, and they were just saying worst performance I've seen in years. So I obviously didn't. I didn't see it. I was on a train at the time. But I saw the result, and I was like, hang on. But I just don't know. You can't really draw too much into one result. But if it carries on that way, then no one wants to win the Premier League this season. It seems like no one. So it's interesting, at least for the neutral.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. But I mean, it's not really the first result City have seen this season. They've had some other disappointing results along the way, but I'd say that goes for any team that has been regarded as a title contender this season. I'll include Arsenal in that, United in that, and plenty of other sides that are at the top of the Barclays Premier League. The only side that's really been consistent is Leicester, surprisingly, which comes to the surprise really of everyone. I think they've really been a surprise package this season. But I was really disappointed with the way that Sterling, De Bruyne and Silva played throughout the game, and especially Wilfred Bonny. I thought they created very little with what was an absolute array of talent. David Silva really wasn't all that flattering on his return. And City looked very fragile defensively. Fernandinho and Fernando, neither of those two really looking all that clever in the midfield. And then their defence, Damien Ellis, I think is evidently getting past it. Sanya looks very fragile. Kolarov wasn't at his best, I don't think. I don't really think we can simply put it down to just one game because there are some evident problems in that City side. To give Stoke some credit, because they really were the bright spark of this game, quite evidently, their front three of Arnautovic, Shaqiri and Boyan, I thought they were absolutely immense. Cole, I'll come to you first on this one. Stoke haven't had the most amazing start to the season, but now they're starting to pick up some form. I think they've had something like 6 wins in the past 9. I might be wrong on that, but they really are getting into a great run of form. How far do you think Stoke can go this season?
I'd say mid-table. I don't think they'll get too high up in the table. They have the squad for it. I mean, for me, it could change, but I thought Shaqiri throughout the season has been kind of poor, and I think he'll become that journeyman that he already is, even further in an extent. But I see them as mid-table. It's going to be an up and down season. They'll have, no doubt in my mind, performances like that. But going into it, can they go to somewhere like Arsenal? Can they go to those teams, the big teams, and pull off something like West Ham has done this season? I just don't think so.
Well, one thing you can guarantee is they'll certainly beat Arsenal when they play them in January. That's a guarantee. Ellis, the same question to you. I mean, do you think that this Stoke City side could potentially push for Europa League spot?
I think as the season goes on, they're going to get better. They've got Jack Butland, who's got the highest save percentage in the league, I think. So they're pretty solid in that respect. They've got Bojan, who I think could probably play in like a top 4 team in most countries. Shaqiri's going to get better as the league goes on. Afellay, not really much about him. Arnautovic could really come into his own this season, and they've not got a bad striker in Mamadou if they need him. But they've got a good squad, I think, and I don't see any reason why they can't be up in the Europa League, especially how open the league is this season. So Stoke are one to watch for sure, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Some great points made there, both from Cole and Ellis. Moving on to the next game that we'll be taking a look at, City's main title rival, I guess you could say, in Arsenal. who got a 3-1 victory over Sunderland, which was a decent result for the Gunners, but not the best of performances. As an Arsenal fan that was at the game myself, I can quite comfortably say that we didn't put in a good performance. We weren't all that convincing. Sunderland could have won the game. It really could have gone the other way. But given the amount of injuries within the squad, I think this is a hard-fought result against a rather robust Sam Allardyce Sunderland side. Cole, I'll come to you again. I mean, with all the injuries Arsenal have got, Alexis Sanchez out for the majority of December, Santi Cazorla out for 3 months, Coquelin out for 3 months as well. Do you take Arsenal as serious title challenges to City or United as well this season?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're going to get those players back. There's no doubt in my mind. When those players do come back, although it probably wasn't the most comfortable victory yesterday at AFCGameByGame, still 3 points. You still have that tenacity. You still have that belief to go on and score 3 goals, missing some of your best midfielders, missing some of your best forwards. It's honestly great to see. Will you finish top? I don't know. It's typical Arsenal there, but I definitely think top 2. That's just my opinion this season. Albeit you'll have to beat Leicester. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, as an Arsenal fan, I'll be really honest. If we don't win the league this season, I'm going to be tearing my hair out because everyone around us is being so inconsistent, but we're being inconsistent ourselves. But the annoying thing is that as an Arsenal fan, I know that our starting 11 is capable of beating any team on their day. It's just a case of we're not able to keep that starting 11 fit, and we're so arrogant, so naive in the transfer market. It's just incredibly frustrating knowing that this opportunity could surpass us. But I'm sincerely hoping that we'll invest in January and be able to go out there and hopefully, win the league potentially. Ellis, Arsenal started with a midfield pivot of Aaron Ramsey and Matthew Flamini. In the absence of Santi Cazorla and Francis Coquelin, which has been pretty much the basis of success for Arsenal over the past 12 months, how successful do you think the Ramsey-Flamini partnership could be? And with Wilshere coming back into the fold of things, Rosicky as well possibly, will Arsenal have a good enough midfield to really cope without Coquelin and Cazorla for the next few months?
I don't know about the Flamini part of that partnership, to be honest. Like, I haven't really watched much of him, to be honest, but he's aging and he's never really wowed me in terms of when I watched him anyway. So I think in January you need to get someone else in there. Obviously that's been evident for a while. You signed Christian Bielik, didn't you? I don't know if he's any good
but
anymore.
let's not consider him just yet.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what I think of that partnership. I do think Arsenal are going to win the league this season. I've said before, I'll say it again.
That's very ambitious there. Also looking to deploy Callum Chambers in a central defensive midfield role there. Cole, I'll just get your quick thoughts on that before we move on to talking about Sunderland. What do you think Chambers is capable of doing in a defensive midfield role for Arsenal?
I don't know. He's so up and down. I mean, how old is he? Like,
I think he's just 20.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside, but I think he has to play more consistently, whether that be for you or on loan or something. He needs more experience. If he's going to be in and out of the team like that, I don't think it's going to help him. I think he literally needs just a full season of playing full-on games, and maybe that's better on loan, in my opinion.
Yep, I'd wholeheartedly agree with that. And briefly talking about Sunderland, despite losing the game, I thought they were fantastic throughout the course of it. Sam Allardyce really does seem to be turning things around there. Ellis, do you think that maybe Big Sam's capable of stopping this relegation-bound side from actually being relegated?
I think Sunderland will stay up because I don't think their squad's as bad as their start of the season form justified, but maybe that's something to talk about the other day. I think they're stronger than the other sides around them, and Sam Allardyce is a manager that is a specialist in staying up. So yeah, I think Sunderland will stay up with Sam Allardyce's guidance, and he's got a transfer window as well. They're not going to be too far off surviving anyway come January, so definitely I think they'll stay up. I think they're a lot stronger than teams like Norwich.
Yeah, I think Allardyce was definitely the right appointment for Sunderland. I think he's definitely got what it takes to keep them in the top flight. Moving on to the next game, probably the dullest one of the weekend, but we're still going to talk about it. Manchester United versus West Ham ended in a 0-0 draw. United can't seem to score at all, Cole. Why is that?
I just don't think they have it up top. I'm not saying Martial is a bad striker, but I don't think they have the support from him. If you're going to play Juan Mata, who's player of the season twice at Chelsea, out wide, I don't understand that. Easily, if you put someone like him in the middle, that's going to create more chances, but there's just not that clinicalness. There's not any depth up there. Loaning out Wilson didn't even make sense really either, considering the lack of options they do have up front. There's just not enough bodies there. There's not enough quality.
One thing I'd say is that I was watching Match of the Day 2 Extra this morning, and they brought up a great point that United don't have someone that's going to guarantee them goals. Rooney would have been that player a couple of years ago, but now he's arguably past it and he's not capable of being that 25 to 30 goal a season striker that he once was. A Sir Alex Ferguson team had someone like York, had someone like Cole, had someone like Van Persie, someone like Van Nistelrooy, someone that's going to guarantee them goals season upon season. But United don't have that anymore. I think that's mainly why they're failing to score goals consistently on a regular basis. Ellis, United have been, for the most part, disappointing, I think you could say, this season. They do play some intricate, some good football at times, but Van Gaal seems to be playing a very defensive mindset throughout the course of these matches. They're not playing particularly attractive football at this moment in time. Do you think that they've got what it takes to win the league?
No, I don't think they've got what it takes to win the league, because their main striking outlet, other than, you could say it was Wayne Rooney, but he's been past it for a couple of years now, but Martial, is too young, he's inexperienced. The price tag will be on his shoulders until next season or the other season when he starts coming to his own. He scored in his debut, which didn't help the hype either. But I think they need to sign someone else in January, especially going forward. And I think, although Chris Smalling's played that well this season, has played really well this season, I don't know whether it's justifiable over a long period of time, his form. So I don't think they're title contenders, no.
I mean, one thing I will say in United's defence is they haven't played particularly well this season, but they're still up there. I mean, they're 3 points off the top spot, and they're not playing great football. It just makes you wonder how good they will be when they actually do gel, when they click and they start actually playing good football. I mean, they've got a very solid defence, and with Chris Smalling, like you say, it really is only a matter of time to whether we can really judge his consistency. But I think he's been one of the best defenders in the league this season. He's been really consistent over the past 12 months, and I don't see any reason particularly why his form should dip, essentially. So, I mean, I can't take United as title contenders just yet because they're not playing football that I would associate with title contenders. But in fairness to them, they are getting results, and I think it's only a matter of time to see where they finish up. But credit to West Ham as well. Touching on them very quickly, they did really well to get a point at Old Trafford, I think, and they could have even won the game. Had an excellent chance denied from Zarate, and they played some good football. Their first win at Old Trafford in a while, so definitely a good result for West Ham. And we'll move on to the next game, Southampton versus Aston Villa. Cole, I'm sure you're really eager to talk about this. A decent result for Villa, it has to be said, away at St Mary's against a good Southampton side. What did you make of the game?
I actually wasn't impressed. I seriously wanted, I thought we could have won it easily. The second half is literally ours. It was our lack of substitutions. When you bring on Richardson and then put Gabby Bonlahor as he's playing left back for the last 2 minutes. It just didn't make sense. We literally should have just went for the win. I mean, albeit it's a point, but 8 points is much better than 6, and that would have helped us considering that Newcastle and Bournemouth won this weekend. But anyways, before I say anything else, be sure to tweet us. The comments are disabled for the video for some reason. I don't know. It's a YouTube, Google Plus Hangout thing, so I'll try to fix that after. Be sure to tweet us at TheFrontThree if you want to get involved. So back to you, Cookie.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my trail of thought there completely. But I mean, it is a decent result for Villa away from home, and a lot of teams won't be able to take many points off Southampton this season, I feel. So definitely a good result from an Aston Villa perspective. But for Southampton point of view, not a great result. I mean, they had lots of chances throughout this game. Aston Villa's defence was very leaky, but they weren't clinical when they needed to be. Ellis, Southampton have been rather disappointing, I guess you could say, this season. They've had some really good results. I mean, that result at Chelsea when they got the 3-1 win. But apart from that, I can't really think of anything that they've done which is too overly spectacular. They just seem to be taking the rough with the smooth and having a fairly average season. I mean, what do you make of Southampton?
I think it was never going to match last season's performance, and I think Tadic hasn't been as good this season, and Mane's been the only real, he's been the star of their season, and even in the Europa League they were disappointing as well. So I don't know. I'm really disappointed with Southampton. I wanted them to prove that after having last season they could maintain it and it was sustainable, but obviously it wasn't. They didn't sign many players as well that I would have said that were worthy of taking them back up to that race. But disappointed, and I think they should be beating teams like Villa if they want to be considered one of the better teams in the league. Anyone should be beating Villa.
Harsh there, Ellis. Really harsh. Cole, you're going to sit back and you're going to take that?
I can't even say you're in the championship because realistically we're going to end up there anyway. So
see you next season.
I think you're going to have to take this one on the chin, Cole. We'll move on to the next game, Swansea versus Leicester. Swansea, Gary Monk's side. unbelievably disappointing this season after wins against the likes of United. I mean, they've just been battered by almost every team recently, which comes to the surprises of many because last season they were unbelievable, and so they were the season before that. Gary Monk has done an excellent job at Swansea, and it really does come to my surprise that they're in such a poor run of form, especially when they've arguably got their best side that they've ever had in the Premier League, which boasts the likes of Sigurdsson, Ayew, Gomez up top. I mean, it's a really odd one for me. Ellis, what's going wrong at Swansea at the moment?
I don't know. You can always point the finger at the manager, which is what I was going to do, but then there's obviously underlying thing you have to look at the players first before the manager. But I think they need an experienced manager. An experienced manager like Monk will work for a season, but then the second season when they've had a transfer window or two to actually sign some players actually shows whether they're a realistic manager to take the club forward. And I don't think Monk's that. I think maybe getting Rodgers back in would be an incredible shout. Get him back to Swansea, and then that is what would save their season. Because at this rate they could go down, which I don't think anyone wants to see. I don't think anyone dislikes Swansea.
Yeah, they could definitely go down. I mean, they've been really flattered, I think, by their previous 2 seasons, but the reality is in the Premier League, that's not something that you can just rely on. I mean, they're a team that were regarded for Europa League spots potentially this season, but now they're in a relegation battle, so total contrast, and I think the players are struggling really to get their heads around that because they've gone from winning games consistently, getting a good number of points on the board, to losing games a lot, and I don't think the players can come to terms with that. But let's talk about Leicester because they were absolutely fantastic yet again. Vardy, Mahrez, at the heart of things, and as was Kante in the midfield. This really is a fantastic Leicester side. Cole, I mean, we're coming up to the new year now. I mean, we're in the start of December right now, but I mean, I think a lot of people assumed that Leicester would fall away. We just thought it would be a little bit of luck at the start of the season, but we're almost halfway into the campaign. I mean, how far can they go? I mean, they're looking like a fantastic team at the moment.
I say top 6 easily. I mean, they just bought so well in the summer. They actually have good squad depth. They have players that arguably maybe someone like Mark Albrighton, who many probably thought after he left Villa was done. It was just the next move to going down, and he's played out of his skin this season. Ranieri was, as soon as he was appointed, everyone said they were going down. Look what he's done for them. They've got the players, they've got the manager they need to keep improving, and albeit they will drop off, it's going to happen. There is no way, in my opinion, but I still say top 6, top 7.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been absolutely outstanding, and I mean, the only thing I would say is that if they were to get injuries to Vardy or Mahrez, then maybe the goals would dry up, maybe they would have a slump of form. But if they continue in this style, if they can keep their starting 11 fit, if they haven't got like Europe or anything to worry about, then they can really go all the way. They look like absolute world beaters at the moment. I'm not saying they'll win the league for any split second, but at the moment they look like the only team that's interested in doing something in the league this season. On that note, we'll move on to Watford, who have been a breath of fresh air, I think you can agree with me in saying, this season. 2-0 win over Norwich. Troy Deeney and Igalo at the heart of things yet again. I mean, they've had an absolute class start to their Premier League campaign. Cole, I'll come to you once again. Are you surprised by Watford, or, I mean, given their investments over the summer and the amount of players they've brought in, is this realistically where they should be in the league?
Oh, totally. They bought what, I don't want to relate everything to Villa, but they bought what Villa should have bought. Someone like Etienne Capoue was a perfect buy for them. They bought well in the midfield, albeit managerial-wise, it's always kind of weird at Watford. What's the turnover rate? Does anybody know? It's ridiculous.
Leicester Leeds.
Yeah, so it's still massively high, but they've just got the squad, and they had Igalo and Deeney, who evidently I didn't think could maybe perform at this level. Completely proved me wrong. They're, I wouldn't say world class or top class, but they're definitely good enough for mid-table.
Yeah, they're definitely playing some fantastic football. And Ellis, living in Norfolk yourself, I mean, you must be surrounding yourself with Norwich fans on a day-to-day basis, which I'm sure is lovely for you. I mean, what do you make of Norwich this season? I think after the draw against Arsenal, everyone was tooting them to maybe get a few more good results on the board. But, I mean, this loss, should I say, against Watford does kind of bring them back to reality in a sense, which is a bit harsh to say. But Norwich, I mean, I think they're going to struggle to stay up this season. Would you agree with me in saying that?
Yeah, like ever since I saw, they had to have spent money in the transfer window. They won the playoffs, so there's no excuse not to spend it. And then when you spend, and you don't really spend, and you get Diamersi and McCartney alone. And I don't care how much Norwich fans try to pretend that they love him, they don't. They haven't got a Premier League class player other than Redmond and maybe Olsen and Brady, and Ruddy's overrated as well. I just have a strong dislike for Norwich because I'm surrounded by so many Norwich fans that literally, like, the amount of abuse they get for supporting Leeds as well, and I can see their squad and it's not good enough to stay up. They're definitely going down, and they're keeping Naivy and keeping Alex Neil in charge, who's inexperienced and isn't good enough to keep them in the league.
Okay, a very brutal opinion there from Ellis. On to the next game, one that I've been dying to talk about, of course. Chelsea losing at home to Bournemouth. Absolutely fantastic result, unless you're a Chelsea fan, of course. But a great result for Eddie Howe's men. I mean, Chelsea did really well for parts of the game, I guess you could say. I mean, they would argue they were the more dominant side, but Bournemouth, chances were not few and far between. They had some really good opportunities in this game, and Glenn Murray took one, which was a great goal by him. And I mean, this result for Bournemouth is a fantastic result. It's, like Eddie Howe says, one of the best in the club's history, if not the best. Glenn Murray, the goal scorer of that. I would love to see Bournemouth stay up. They're everything that I would want to associate with Premier League football. They've got an old-fashioned stadium, an old-fashioned fan base. They play attractive football. They've got a young manager, that desire, that passion to succeed in the league. And they're just a breath of fresh air, a bit like Watford, a nice team to have in the league. And I would like to have more teams like this in the league that aren't so corporately based, a bit like Arsenal in a way, that they're so focused on financial aspects of the game. But yeah, a great result, Cole. I'll come to you. What did you make of Chelsea's performance first and foremost? Because that's the underlying factor here, the most concerning thing, I guess you could say.
I didn't honestly think they played that bad. It was really up to really when Diego Costa came on. I thought it was just awful. He isolates it. It's like playing with 10 men virtually. I wouldn't say Diego Costa is a horrible player, but it just seems like every time he comes on, it's a negative impact. It doesn't even help. It makes everything extremely worse. It's way more difficult than it should be. I still don't know why he's being played, albeit he can have that superstar tag if he really wants it, but it just doesn't make sense. And you have to, this is their 8th loss of the season? Is that right? I can't even see them finishing in the top 5. It's going to be like 8th or something ridiculous like that. And that's scary to say for league champions last season.
Yeah, I think if this league has any credibility, then Chelsea shouldn't be getting in a top 4 spot, because, I mean, it would be great for them if they're able to do it, but it would just show maybe the weakness of the upper teams if they're losing on something. How far are Chelsea behind the top 4 spot? Something ridiculous, like 14 points or whatever. I mean, if they can make up that ground on Spurs and Liverpool, those teams fighting it out for a top 4 spot, it would be abysmal if those teams are to drop 14 points over the course of the season. But, I mean, this is the league. Anything can happen, and Chelsea will firmly believe that they still are capable of doing it. And I'm not ruling them out by any means. I mean, crazier things have happened in the league. But this really is a precarious position that they put themselves in. Ellis, I'm going to throw the question out to you. What's gone wrong at Chelsea?
I think it's Mourinho. Like, the same thing with Rooney at Man U, if you just pick someone because they're a name, that it doesn't work. If it's not working for Mourinho anymore, regardless of who he is, then you have to change it. So you can say there's no one better out there, but you have no proof of that because you haven't got anyone else in. You've got someone that's clearly lost the players, he's lost everything at the club, and you just keep him there because he's a club legend. And it's not showing any signs of getting better. Losing 1-0 at home against Bournemouth is ridiculous. It's inexcusable as well. Like, it's just, something has to change, and I think it's him. He has to go.
I suppose Chelsea fans would argue, though, that they're playing good football at this moment in time. They played well at Stoke, they played well against Bournemouth, but just things aren't going their way. But isn't that kind of, oh God, this is a controversial one, but isn't that the sign of a relegation candidate in a way? Cole, I'll come to you with that one.
Yes, join us. We'll have anybody. But I don't know. I feel like they shouldn't sack Mourinho. I'd love it if they did because it's just great headlines. But I think for the first time, looking at Chelsea's perspective, I think they need to stay behind him like somebody. They don't ever do that. Maybe it's time to. Obviously, he's their most successful manager in their history, arguably. So why not? I think at some point you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I mean, if they're going to hit 10 losses here soon, which in my opinion is going to happen, it's inevitable, unless they somehow buy a new team in January, how can you stand behind him in a sense? It's kind of a 50-50 thing. And with that being said, who's going to be standing behind him at the end of January, depending who they bring in? Because I think that's going to be who he's going to be based on and judged upon if he does stay.
Okay. For the record, Chelsea probably won't get relegated this season. That was just me being mental. Let's move on to today's game. Newcastle, Liverpool, 2-0 result for Newcastle. I mean, who'd have predicted that? Liverpool have had some fantastic results recently, most notably the 6-1 win away from home against Southampton. They must be the most up and down team under Klopp, but they're still playing really good football. They were a bit hard done by with that offside decision. Moreno playing a fantastic ball in, but inexcusable away from home against a team that had tooted for relegation. Ellis, what do you make of Liverpool under Klopp this season? I mean, can you see them as a top 4 candidate?
I don't know. I don't know whether their squad in a normal season, no, because it's an adjustment period of Klopp. He's going to have to get in his side signings to make it work. But with the league going this way, then they are, aren't they? Because everyone else around them sort of dropping points as well. It's an exciting Premier League and teams like Liverpool. Because I don't know, with Sturridge fit, and if Sturridge fires for them and stays injury free, then I'll get top 4, I think, with Firmino and Coutinho in behind. But it's so many different variables of them, because it's all about if they spend in January, if Klopp tries to make a sign into this new system, and if Sturridge stays fit for once, and if Henderson can stay fit as well. So I'd like to say they could, but there's like 5 or 6 teams that could this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I keep Chelsea in the mix of things for a top 4 spot is because Liverpool are capable of a result like this, and Spurs only got a 1-1 draw at the Hawthorns this week. So, I mean, it's not been a great result for teams competing for that top 4 spot. I mean, personally, I think it's between Liverpool and Spurs, I'd say, but also Everton potentially in the fold for that. But I mean, even Leicester as well. There are so many teams that could get a top 4 spot this season. It's absolutely insane. I mean, if United don't pick up, they might finish outside the top 4. I know that United fans won't like to hear that, but in my opinion, it is a reality. If they don't play better football, someone like Everton could look to overtake them in the near future. But I mean, that's a controversial one, and we'll leave that for another day. Newcastle, though, got to give them credit. A fantastic result. Wijnaldum with another goal. I mean, they're playing some excellent football. Yeah, I've got to be careful with what I say here, because Newcastle are a side that can do really well one week and then be absolute garbage the next week. But Cole, do you think that they're capable of actually doing decently in the league this season under McLaren and getting a mid-table finish at least?
Oh, no, they won't finish mid-table. It'll be nowhere near it. It's going to be literally, if they do survive, they're literally going to be that team right above it or 2 spots above it. They're going to be in there. There's... I don't know if I want to say it's McLaren, but obviously ownership and all that's always been a problem for a while now, obviously. But they just don't have the players, and I always like to refer to. I listened to the Football Ramble a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about how specifically players see that someone like Sissoko sees that as a transition club to move to a bigger club, and I think that's the mindset a lot of those players have, and I think that's a major problem to have, especially when you're in that situation you're in. January, I don't think for someone like Newcastle is going to make or break them, but I mean, I don't see McLaren staying in the job for the full year. Let's just say that.
Okay, and on that note, we'll move on to the next segment of the debut show, I guess you could say, where we're going to take a look at some of our mid-season predictions. And Carl, I can see you're very excited there. Ellis, we'll come to you first. The first question we've got here is, what's your top 4 prediction? Who are you going to go for?
In order, or just my top 4?
Just anyone who's going to finish in the top 4.
Tottenham, Spurs. No, Tottenham and Spurs apparently. Both of them. Spurs, Leicester, Arsenal, and City.
Ambitious. Okay, and Cole, you?
City, Arsenal, United, Spurs.
And I'm going to go for City, Arsenal, United, and Liverpool, just because I don't want Spurs to get top 4. Yeah, on to the next question following that one. Who will finish in the Europa League spots? I believe there's only 2 of these, so Cole will come to you this one first on this one. So who are you pipping for top relegate? I'm losing my train of thought here. It's been a long show. Who's going to get Europa League spots this season?
Well, obviously it depends on cups and stuff like that too. But besides from that, I'm going to go for Liverpool and Leicester. Why not?
And Ellis, yourself?
Everton and United.
Ooh.
I'm going to go for Spurs and Leicester. I think those would be my 2 for Europa League spots. On to the next one. Who's going to be relegated from the Premier League and end up in the Championship? Ellis, come to you first on this one.
Norwich, Bournemouth.
Watch what you say here.
This third one gets me because there's no one who are Villa.
And Cole, who are
Because
you going to go for?
No, let Ellis explain. Let him explain this.
Oh, you
I
want
mean,
to
I
explain
said
it? Yeah, okay.
2 weeks ago I said you'd stay up, but 2 weeks is a long time, and Guard doesn't change it much. Ask again after January, it might change, but keep going down at this rate.
Okay, Cole, on to you.
Oh, God, I'm gonna say Bournemouth. I just don't see enough. Too many injuries to their best players. Newcastle. Or no, actually no, let's not go Newcastle. Sorry. Actually, yeah, let's go Newcastle. Screw it. I can't think of anybody else.
Good start.
Newcastle, and I'm not going to include Villa in that because I'm just going to be absolutely unrealistic, and let's say Norwich.
Okay, and myself, I'll probably go for Norwich, Villa, and as much as I want them to stay up, I think it'll be Bournemouth. I think they're really going to suffer from those injuries that they've got to some of their key players. So, sorry, Bournemouth. On to the next question that we've got here. Who could surprise us this season? I think the majority of us would all agree Leicester, but aside from Leicester, because they've been so consistent, I mean, who has been another surprise package? Cole, who do you think?
Oh, Watford, 100%. I could see them continually climbing that. I mean, Gallo's on fire. Deeney, in my opinion, is just starting. They have the firepower to finish mid-table, if not a little bit higher, and cause some big upsets. So why not?
Yeah, definitely. And Ellis, would you agree with Cole in that, or do you think there's someone else out there?
Yeah, I agree in that one, but I think Spurs could win the league.
Okay.
Wow.
We won't talk too much about that one. I mean, my surprise package, I love talking about Bournemouth, and I'm going to go with Bournemouth because they're always in games, they're playing decent football, and I like Eddie Howe as a manager, and I like the philosophy that Bournemouth have got. So despite their poor run of form and where they are in the league, I think if they had everyone fit, I definitely think they could be, comfortably in a secure place in the league. But I mean, that's just ifs and buts, and sadly, we don't live in that kind of world. And now we'll take a look at the Championship, just very briefly. Just one question here, and we'll take a look at who will get promoted. Ellis, being a fan of a Championship side yourself, we'll come to you first in this one. Who's going to get promoted from the Championship this season?
Middlesbrough and Hull, for sure. And then Derby through the playoffs, maybe, because they've actually got a decent manager this season. So I see Derby staying there this time. And
Okay.
yeah.
And Cole?
Middlesbrough has to. Derby has to. And I'm going to go with an outsider here. I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday.
Oof. Okay. I don't watch a lot of Championship football. Being a big Arsenal fan, haven't got time for that. I'm not that arrogant.
Sorry.
No, honestly, Championship. I mean, it's a great league. I think there's so many teams that could potentially come up from the Championship. I think I'd love to see Brighton come up if they're able to maintain their good form. Hull City, because they've got Isaac Hayden and Chuba Akpom, they're definitely coming up, obviously. And Middlesbrough, I reckon they came close last season. I think they'll definitely do it this time round. But on that note, I think we'll cap off the show there. This is going to be a permanent segment on the channel. And yeah, I mean, leave any suggestions in the comments box below for videos that you'd like to see go up. Cole, if there's anything you'd like to conclude with before we really wrap this up.
Are we doing the highlights thing, or are we just ending it?
Sorry, what was that?
Are we doing like the personal highlights of the week, or are we just ending it? Sorry, I didn't even hear that.
Personal highlights of the week. I mean, if you want to elaborate on that, you can.
I'd
You can
say
go for it.
I'd go with Big Samson in his chair at Arsenal. If you ever seen on the screen, he was legit like you can't see me, but he was like this. The chair was up here. It literally looked like he could have a nap. I thought that was my highlight of the week.
Okay, what about you, Ellis? If you've got a highlight of the week.
Leeds beating Hull 2-1 because Hull are a Premier League side and we're a League One side. So technically it was like a cup shock.
Oh, wonderful. I think my highlight of the week would probably be Aaron Ramsey falling over during his celebration, which was absolute garbage. But anyway, we'll leave it on that one. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on board, and hopefully we'll be able to keep this as a more consistent feature on the channel. Like I say, once again, thanks to everyone that's joined us this evening, and we'll be speaking to you soon. Thanks to Cole and Ellis for joining me tonight, as they always will be, and we'll be speaking to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.